Before we even look at the data, I want you to consider the coffee cup sitting on the table between us. If we leave it there for an hour, what happens?
It gets cold. It goes from hot to room temperature.
Exactly. Physics calls this thermal equilibrium. I call it the death of structure. The universe has a fundamental preference for disorder. It wants that coffee to be lukewarm, just like it wants these buildings to be dust and stars to be iron. This is the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy, disorder, always increases in a closed system.
Okay, I remember high school physics. Things fall apart, but we are here to talk about biological aging, not coffee.
They are the same thing. You see, biology is just a temporary, arrogant rebellion against physics. To be alive is to maintain a state of low entropy. You are a highly ordered structure in a universe that hates order. And discipline, whether it is cellular repair or you going to the gym, is simply the energy cost of fighting that universal pull.
So you are saying aging isn't a biological mistake. It is just physics winning the argument.
Precisely. Aging is what happens when the discipline of the system falters. It is the moment the cost of maintaining order becomes too high to pay, and the chaos starts to leak in. We are about to look at the audit trail of that collapse.
That is a grim way to frame it. But if life is a rebellion, I want to see how the rebellion fails. Let's look at the evidence.
Open the file to page 1.
The contagion of decay. This visual is disturbing. A cell glowing sickly green, shooting little particles at a healthy blue cell. It looks like a war zone.
It is a riot in a disciplined society or a disciplined body. When a unit fails, it is quietly removed. It undergoes apoptosis. It shuts down neatly. But here we see senescent cells. These are cells that have stopped dividing, but they refuse to die.
The slide calls them zombie units. And it says they secrete exosomes.
Think of these exosomes as propaganda pamphlets for chaos. These cells have lost their internal order, and instead of containing that entropy, they export it. The text mentions the bystander effect.
Right. It says they induce secondary senescence in healthy neighbors. So one bad apple really does spoil the bunch.
It is thermodynamic contagion. A healthy cell is a low-entropy system, highly ordered, functioning perfectly. This senescent cell sprays it with pro-inflammatory factors and microRNAs. It introduces noise into the signal.
So it is actively recruiting the healthy cell into the same state of disorder.
Exactly. It creates a localized high-entropy zone. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. If a sector is damaged, you want to shut down the surrounding area to prevent cancer, which is uncontrolled, chaotic growth. But in the modern context, it becomes a death cult.
A Ponzi scheme of cellular debt. That is a strong line.
Because you are borrowing order from your neighbors to pay for your own failure. And eventually, the whole neighborhood goes bankrupt. This isn't passive rusting. This is an active insurrection against the discipline of the body.
If it is an insurrection, we need to understand why the security systems are failing. The common idea is that we just wear out, like a pair of shoes.
That is the comfortable lie we tell ourselves. Wear and tear implies that if we just drove the car less, it would last longer. But physics tells us that even a car sitting in a garage rusts. Turn to page 2.
The wear and tear myth. We have a split screen here, a fraying rope versus a glitching digital city. The slide says, aging is not hardware failure. It is a software corruption.
This is crucial. If you scratch a CD, the music stops. Is it because the laser wore out? No, it is because the asterisk information asterisk was lost. The second law of thermodynamics isn't just about heat. It is about information entropy.
Shannon entropy, the loss of signal fidelity.
Exactly. The slide mentions the epigenome. This is the librarian that tells your DNA what to read. As we age, the librarian gets drunk. It starts losing the instructions.
The instruction manual is corrupt. So the cell still has the parts, but it forgot how to build the machine.
Correct. It loses the discipline of its identity. A skin cell starts forgetting it is a skin cell and starts acting like a generic, confused cell. That is high entropy. Order requires precise information. Chaos is just noise.
The text mentions signaling errors and a decline in NAD plus biosynthesis.
NAD plus is the currency of discipline. We will get to that, but understand this. We are not running out of bricks. We are forgetting the blueprint. The chaos isn't random damage. It is the inevitable rise of noise in the communication channel because we stop putting energy into error correction.
So we are turning into static. That explains the confusion. But how does the body try to fight this? You mentioned a rebellion against physics. There must be a resistance movement.
There is, and it relies on a very sophisticated supply chain. Let's look at the logistics on page 3.
The biological blockchain. This looks incredibly high-tech. Cargo, ENAMPed. Destination, hypothalamus.
If entropy is the enemy, then the exosome is the armored truck carrying the payroll. To maintain order, to keep entropy low, you need energy. The brain is the command center, and it is incredibly expensive to run. It cannot generate all its own fuel.
So the body has to ship fuel to the brain.
It ships the instructions for fuel. The slide says adipose tissue, fat, packages this enzyme ENAMPed into exosomes and sends it to the brain.
Wait, fat is sending fuel to the brain. I thought fat was just stored energy.
In this context, fat is a logistics hub. It creates these low-entropy packets. Think about the bloodstream. It is chaotic, turbulent, full of enzymes trying to tear things apart. It is a high-entropy environment.
And the exosome protects the cargo.
It is a thermodynamic vessel. It maintains a tiny bubble of perfect order amidst the chaos of the blood to ensure that the energy currency reaches the hypothalamus.
The slide calls it a biological blockchain. Why that term?
Because it is a verified, trustless ledger. It proves that the body has the resources to continue. It is intertissue verification. When this delivery system works, the brain gets the signal. We have order. Keep the systems running.
And when it fails,
the economy of the body collapses. The brain perceives a lack of resources, a lack of ability to fight entropy, and it initiates the shutdown sequence.
But why would it do that? Why would the system ever choose to shut down if it has the resources?
Because of the budget. Thermodynamics is ultimately an accounting problem. You only have so much energy. Where do you spend it? Move to page 4.
The disposable asset. This image is harsh, a glowing fetus weighing more than a decaying adult. Evolutionary logic. Prioritize germline. Discard Soma.
This is the cold equations of survival, maintaining a low-entropy state. Keeping you young and structured is incredibly expensive. It requires constant repair, constant error correction, constant discipline.
And nature doesn't want to pay the bill forever.
Nature only pays the bill until you reproduce. Once you have passed on your genes, the germline, you have successfully transferred the order to a new vessel.
So the Soma, my body, is just the wrapper.
You are the packaging. Once the package is delivered, the universe stops fighting the entropy of the wrapper. The slide mentions antagonistic pleiotropy.
That means genes that are good for us when we are young can be bad for us when we are old.
Because the incentive structure shifts. The genes that drive rapid growth, high-order creation, in youth become the engines of cancer and aging, high entropy. Later, the system was designed to vest, not to last.
So we are abandoned by our own software. The discipline stops because the budget is cut.
Exactly. We become a bad investment for the species. Why spend energy repairing a car that has already finished the race? Let it rust. Let the entropy take it.
That is depressing, but I want to talk about the mechanism of this abandonment. You mentioned NAD+ earlier as the currency. How exactly does that work?
This is the most beautiful and terrifying part of the physics. Turn to page 5.
Maxwell's biological demon. I see a little demon at a gate, struggling to sort red and blue molecules, and an energy bar reading NAD+ critical.
This is the core of our argument. In 1867, James Clerk Maxwell proposed a thought experiment. He imagined a demon controlling a door between two gas chambers. By letting fast molecules go one way and slow ones the other, the demon could create heat differences without work, violating the second law.
Creating order from nothing.
But later, physicists proved the demon cannot do it for free. The act of asterisk measuring asterisk, the speed of the molecules and asterisk deciding asterisk. To open the door takes information processing, and information processing costs energy.
So the demon has to get paid.
Exactly. In your body, the demons are the sirtuins and DNA repair enzymes. They are constantly sorting. This DNA base is wrong, fix it. This gene should be off, silence it. They are imposing discipline on the molecular chaos.
And the slide says, low NAD+ equals sorting failure.
NAD+ is the battery that powers the demon. As we age, NAD+ levels drop, likely because of that supply chain failure we saw on slide 3.
So the demon gets tired.
The demon goes bankrupt. It stops sorting. It lets the errors through. It lets the fast molecules mix with the slow ones. The distinction between ordered and disordered blurs.
And that is aging, the loss of the ability to distinguish signal from noise.
Aging is simply the demon going bankrupt. When the sorting stops, entropy wins. The structure dissolves.
And when the structure dissolves, the system crashes. We saw the start of this with the zombie cells. But how bad does the crash get?
It becomes systemic. It is not just one demon failing. It is the whole network crashing. Go to page 6.
The systemic glitch. We have nodes turning red. Error, signal loop. ECM remodeling. Structural integrity lost.
Remember, the body is a web of signals. When the demons fail, the signals get crossed. Senescent cells start secreting factors that remodel the extracellular matrix, the scaffolding that holds your cells together.
The slide says fibrosis initiated. That is basically scar tissue, right?
It is stiff, disordered tissue. It is the loss of flexibility. In physics, a flexible system can handle stress, entropy. A rigid system shatters. The glitch is that the body thinks it is healing a wound.
The system mistakes chronic decay for acute injury.
It is stuck in a loop. It sends signals to build walls, fibrosis, to contain an infection that isn't there. It is spending energy to create the asterisk, wrong kind asterisk of structure.
So it is misapplied discipline. It is working hard to build a prison for itself.
Exactly. It creates a senescent microenvironment. The structural integrity collapses because the information guiding the construction is corrupt. The entropy of the software destroys the hardware.
This feels hopeless. We have an evolutionary budget cut, a bankrupt demon, and a glitching signal loop. Physics seems determined to wipe us out.
Physics is determined, but remember, humans are the only species that can learn the laws of physics. And if you know the laws, you can exploit the loopholes.
Is there a loophole for entropy?
There is. You can pay the debt. You can inject external order. Let's look at the future on page 7.
The Overwrite. This looks hopeful. A syringe injecting glowing blue fluid. Upload complete. My R302B.
This is where we flip the script. We used to think we had to fix the wear and tear, patch the tire, replace the knee. That is a losing battle.
Because the problem is the software.
Right. So the solution is a software update. The slide shows exosomal reprogramming. We can take these exosomes, these little packets of order, and load them with new instructions.
Vectorized flux. We are sending the librarian back to school.
We are refilling the demon's bank account by injecting precursors like NMN or specific microRNAs, like my R302B. We are forcing the system to remember its identity. We are artificially lowering the entropy of the epigenome.
The slide says it reverses proliferative arrest. It wakes the zombie cells up.
It reprograms them. It tells them, you are not done. Get back to work. Restore the order. It imposes an external discipline on the system.
We will silence the noise of the disposable Soma. So we are basically telling evolution, no, thank you. We are keeping this asset.
We are firing the accountant. We are saying that we are willing to pay the energy cost that nature refuses to pay. We will supply the NAD+. We will supply the information. We will maintain the low entropy state indefinitely.
So, in the end, the cure for aging isn't magic. It is just better management.
It is thermodynamic discipline. The universe will always try to tear you apart. The only way to survive is to relentlessly, aggressively, and intelligently put things back together.
That is a lot of work.
It is the only alternative to becoming dust. The choice is yours, entropy or discipline.
I think I will take the discipline, and maybe a fresh cup of coffee. This one is cold.
The universe wins this round, but we will win the war.